and how
All
dominant
right.
they've
Yeah.
looked. And, they've, we talked about the Clippers when it
Yeah.
originally happened. You were not a fan of the James Harden trade. I'm not gonna act like I was in love with the deal. I was just personally saying that I think Harden is good for regular season stability and he doesn't make them worse. And I think since they were kind of stale at the moment, going in for James Harden was kind of like, hey, what do you got to lose? I don't think this current thing is working. But clearly it upped their ceiling. I think now we can say. Um, but I wanted to talk specifically about load management with the Clippers
Mhm.
because clearly it's a whole bunch of crap. Because my team tried to do it a few weeks ago
Right.
and it has severely just completely crushed their season. Morale, trust in the organization. They rested one game, a game where they charged $127 as the cheapest ticket for Brooklyn Nets fans to come in,
hmm
and nobody played. And well, they started Mikal Bridges to keep his streak, and then they sat him after. And they didn't play Cam Thomas either. They didn't play anybody
Yeah.
for rest. Meanwhile, the Clippers don't rest their guys anymore, and Kawhi Leonard's been healthy. Paul George has been healthy. Harden's been healthy. Everyone's been healthy. And you know what? The Clippers finally have a year of continuity. And look how they're playing. What is your reaction to the Clippers?
Yeah, the Clippers have figured it out. It looked really rough those first 6 games. I think a big key was, unfortunately, they had to decrease Russell Westbrook's minutes. He doesn't play a whole lot with the big three of Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George. He plays with one or two of the other. That has been a big thing. Unfortunately, he just doesn't fit the other three, and that was a problem in the beginning, having them all four together on the floor. So now that you've kind of separated them, Ty Lue being a great coach that he is, he's found the combinations that work really well. And like you mentioned, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, they're playing every game, back to backs, 3 and 4 nights, whatever it may be. They're playing. And when you're playing together constantly, you build continuity. They went on that huge win streak. Right after they started the first 6 games, didn't win any. They went on a huge win streak, climbed up the standings. They're now among the elite in the West. I think load management, I don't know how we got so lost in it. It doesn't make sense that if you're constantly sitting guys out, that you're going to be a great team. And that was their problem the last couple seasons, this whole tenure with Kawhi Leonard, is that, Toronto won a championship kind of load managing Kawhi a little bit, having him rest here and there. I think he played like 60 or so games that season. They came in with that same mindset because he was so injury prone and dealing with so many injuries that they said, all right, you and Paul George, we're going to rest you here and there. We're going to kind of coast through the regular season. And then they got to the playoffs and thought it would work, and it didn't. Then because the regular season matters, the process matters. You need to build your process so that in the playoffs, when stuff gets hard, you know what to do, where to go to, how you're gonna run things. So this Clipper team, this is probably the most optimistic I've been about the Clippers in this whole Kawhi Leonard tenure. I think they can compete with Denver, with Oklahoma City, with Minnesota. They're finally a team that you look at and say, you know what? This team, if they stay healthy, they can win a title because James Harden just makes everything so much easier for Kawhi and Paul George. This is probably the best season Paul George has had as a Clipper. Probably his best season since Oklahoma City. That season was obviously a lot better, but he's been on the floor. They both have. Kawhi is proving he's still an elite star in this league. Not so much on the defensive end anymore, even though he still has moments, but offensively can still score without any one of them. And this is a team that finally, they we're coming to the end of this and looking like, man, is this going to be over after this season? They make that trade, they take the gamble, and it seemingly has worked out so far.
I think people's concerns with the Clippers are I'm gonna say a few things. Number one, they're the Clippers.
Yeah, that
So,
means something.
apparently, yeah. But my thing is, if this team wasn't the Clippers, if you just took the guys on the team and you saw the record, saw how well they're playing, you would say to yourself, this is a team that looks like they can win a championship. If you didn't know they were called the Clippers, you didn't know the history,
Right.
that's what you would say. So I'm gonna say that. Number two, James Harden's performance in the playoffs. Here's my retort to it. Harden is playing with two guys that can take over games. And you know what? Maybe Harden's so bad, like maybe Westbrook can come in and he can honestly take over a game. But
Hmm.
Kawhi and Paul George, that's why I was so like I'm kind of emotional about it. But like I think it's a big reason he didn't win in Philly. Philly needed to count on James Harden. Like Harden had to
Yeah.
play well for them to win. Harden didn't really have to play great in Brooklyn to win because he had Kyrie and Durant on his side. It's like, all right, shots not falling. All right, let's kick it to Kyrie. He'll do something. KD, let's do something, right? If he's not playing well with the Clippers, okay. Kawhi, you've won a championship. You're better than me here. Paul George, you're also really good, and you've taken this Clipper team to the conference finals. You're also really good. So I think Paul George is a little overrated, but he's having a good season. But the thing is, that's a very big piece. I think people are saying, like, well, let's see them in the playoffs. Let's see Harden in the playoffs. I don't think Harden necessarily has to do all that much to win with the Clippers because he's got Kawhi and Paul George. And the last thing is health. Like they've been
Right.
healthy,
Of
which
course.
is great. However, they have injury histories, all of them at this point. Harden used to be the most durable person ever, and of course he goes to Brooklyn and he's not durable anymore. He goes to Philly. He has moments there. It's all in their history. So that's a huge concern. But they got the coach. You don't look at them as like, oh, they got bad coaching. I think they're going for it too. I think they're gonna try and make moves. I think Zach Lowe said maybe they'll check in on the Nets for a role player like Dorian Finney-Smith. Maybe they'll do something else with whatever remaining picks that they do have. But as far as the Clippers go, like I think you're right. Denver Nuggets, OKC Thunder, Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, Timberwolves and the Thunder, they haven't done anything yet.
Right.
Denver's the one that's done something. And, there's times this year where I'm like, Denver's amazing, and Denver maybe just going through the motions.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I've seen some games where it's just like, it doesn't look like, but that could just be, an idea of, we won the title last year. We know we're gonna be there in the playoffs, because they're gonna be a top three seed. I don't think they're gonna fall out of that.
Mhm.
Um, so that could be just that. I've seen jokes, Jamal Murray doesn't even show up to really play. When they play like the regular teams, or when they played Boston, he had like 30. So like when you have guys like that, can raise their level of performance when it matters, when you need it most. That's probably why, some nights they just don't look like they care. And that's just, a product of winning the title last year. Um, in convincing fashion. They weren't really pushed
Mhm.
too much in the playoffs.